At a press event on Tuesday, President Joe Biden spoke about healthcare costs, Medicare, and Social Security. The president hammered Republicans, calling out Senators Rick Scott and Ron Johnson, and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. President Biden condemned plans from Senator Scott and Johnson that would put funding for Medicare and Social Security at risk. The president also attacked the plan unveiled by House Republicans, saying it was a, quote, thin set of policy goals with little or no detail.
And we're doing all this by bringing down the deficit at the same time. Hear about us being big spenders? Well, they raised the debt by $2 trillion. We've reduced the deficit in my first year, 2021, by $350 billion, okay? Name was some student loan forgiveness and all the cost of all these things. We're on track to reduce the deficit this year, fiscal year, by more than $1 trillion. And the Inflation Reduction Act will reduce it another $300 billion over the next decade. That's possible because Medicare is finally going to be able to negotiate lower prescription drug prices, so less money paid out. Now, I wish I could say the Republicans supported this progress in reducing health care costs and strengthening Medicare. That would be good for all of America. But they have a very different idea. Every single Republican voted against the Inflation Reduction Act. And when it actually came time to do something about inflation around the kitchen table, every one of them said no, House and the Senate. And sadly, it goes even further. 158 House Republicans have already signed a Republican budget that will cut Medicare and Social Security. I know you think I'm probably exaggerating that, but there's a pamphlet, 12-point plan to rescue America by Senator Scott of Florida, okay? I won't read through all of it, but it says, all federal legislation sunsets in 5 years. If it is worth keeping, Congress can pass it again. Translated, if you don't vote to keep it, you don't get it. Now, what do you think they're going to do when the House Budget Committee started talking about the cost of Medicare and Social Security and why we can't afford it? Folks, you know, the senator in charge of reelecting United States senators, Senator Scott, has proposed a plan that's where Social Security, Medicare, and every 5 years on the chopping block. It means every 5 years you either cut it, reduce it, or completely eliminate it. Social Security, Medicare. You know, you've been paying into Social Security since the first job as a teenager and you get your paycheck. And by the way, then there's Senator Ron Johnson of Wisconsin. He thinks waiting 5 years, every 5 years, is too long to wait. Not a joke. These are actually in writing, okay? He wants to put Social Security and Medicare on the chopping block every single year in every budget. If Congress doesn't vote to keep it, goodbye. Now, it's not just Social Security and Medicare he wants to deal with. He wants to put veterans' benefits and everything else of the federal budget at risk. He's the same person who said that if Republicans gain control of Congress, they should once again try to repeal the Affordable Care Act, which, by the way, is the only reason why millions of people with pre-existing conditions are able to get health care, is the Affordable Care Act, literally, not figuratively, literally. Then last week, Republican leader of the House unveiled what he called the Commitment to America. God bless America. It's a thin set of policy goals with little or no detail that Republicans say they'll pursue if they regain control of the Congress. In the course of nearly an hour, here are a few of the things that we didn't hear. We didn't hear the words Medicare or Social Security. And he said for the first time they'll get what the first thing they're going to do is repeal the Inflation Reduction Act. Well, guess what? All those things I mentioned we're going to do, they get rid of all of them with the repeal. I have a different idea. I'll protect those programs. I'll make them stronger, and I'll lower your cost to be able to keep them.